There we go. Music just stopped. Yo, 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 yo. What is up? What's going on? How's everybody doing today? Yes, sir. How's everybody doing? Happy Wednesday. Yes, today is Wednesday. How's everybody doing? We got a good show tuned in for you today. It's been a minute. Had some crazy stuff going on this week, but we are back on schedule, getting everything good and going. Started out a little late today, but like I said, had some stuff to take care of. We still getting things situated and trying to get everything right, but for the most part, we back in this ish. That's right. Thank you. Calm down. Hold your applause. But for the most part, man, today we got a good show lined up for you today, man. It's been a good minute. It's been a hell of a week, crazy weekend. We're in the summer, kids is out of school and all that good stuff. But to say the least, we are back. We're about to get it in and get everything happening. Bruh. And I had to switch up some sounds on my soundboard because I accidentally deleted a few of them. So I had to find some new ones. So I got a few new sounds and stuff like that. And I might have to try to find where some of my sounds are. So it's going to kind of mess up as we go along. But to say the least, man, today we got a good show lined up. Today we are going to be going over our topics: fitness, the economy, and AI. And we are simultaneously streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. So if you're on any one of those platforms, feel free to get a follow. And if you're on YouTube and you see the like button, do me a favor with that little thumbs up you're going to see. Hit that button right there to get the algorithm out. Is greatly appreciated. Of course, if you want to contribute to today's show, Cash App and the Venmo's right there. Cash App Daniel2888. Venmo is going to be Danny-Daniel-00, of course. And we're going to go ahead and roll right into this thing because we got stuff that we got to take care of today. So let's roll into the show. But for the fitness topic, we're going to roll over and go over obesity and how Japan seems to have gotten over the obesity. But in America, they ain't seen to figure this stuff out yet. So we're going to look at that and see what's going on. See what they eating over there in Japan, trying to figure out why everybody, every time you look around in Japan, everybody's so thin. But you come to America and everybody just fat. So we're going to look at that and see. And I mean, the Japanese might be skinny fat. You know what I mean? They might be skinny fat, but nonetheless, they're not like big and wide. They're like narrow, but just sloppy jalopy. You know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is. Then we're going to move on to the economy portion of the show, and then we're going to look at population or depopulation. We're going to look at why the world is depopulating. We're going to try to figure out what's going on, if it's true, if it's not true, if it's an agenda, or how it's happening, and is it a country thing or is it a global thing? So we're going to see what's going on and why the depopulation is happening. I mean, like I say, there was these Georgia Guidestones that they had that they tore down not too long ago, well, a few years ago, and they had mentioned that their mission on those Georgia Guidestones was to get the population down to 500 million, and I was like, yo, 500 million? I'm like, hey, come on now, 500 million? Like, come on now, that's gonna be a little bit that's like a 80% hack of what we got now. What we got, like 7-8 billion, and you going to 500 million? Now, if you look around at how the world is being ran right now, you would think that the way they would, if they were going according to the Georgia Guidestone plans, you would think like they finna like drop they're gonna do something like this. Here, let me help you get a better understanding. If they try to get it from what it is now to 500 million, you would think they would do something like this. That's what you would think. You would be like, bruh, but not actually. If you look around, the economy is tough. Nobody want to get married. Men and women, they're like fighting each other. There's this crazy divide going on. Nobody want to get married. The laws ain't changing in marriage, so nobody wants to have any kids. It's too expensive to have kids. The cost of living goes up. Housing and mortgages and rent have gone up. However, the job wages have not gone up nowhere near as close. So when you put all these things together, it seems like a trifecta or quadfecta or multifecta of a lot of things that kind of makes society depopulate itself. You know what I mean? So it's kind of scary when you think about it. So the depopulation is actually coming from like a choice. It's like they give you the choice. It's like you can still procreate. It's just gonna be hard as hell. But we're gonna look into it. That's gonna be the economy video. I don't want to say too much because I've already said too much. Then we're gonna get to the AI portion of the show, and we're gonna look at what is it, 50 some odd robots that they got ready to roll out by the time, like, what, the next 3 to 5 years, whatever it rolls out. So we're gonna look at some of the robots they got out now and the robots that will be out in the future and see how far away we are from these robots roaming the streets, being implemented all over jobs and stuff like that, taking away everybody's jobs, as well as making you be forced into the system of UBI. So we're going to see how that looks. Bruh. And hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully it's not too shabby. So we're going to check it out. I haven't watched it. I saw a little bit of it, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I just wanted to see if it was worth it. And it seemed like it. And it's long, so I don't know if we'll be able to finish the whole thing today. But we're going to look into it and see what kind of robots they're going to have roaming the streets and roaming the earth right now, and see if we're going to be okay, or if we're going to have to do, some drastic times come for desperate measures. And are we going to be good, or are we going to have to be like this?
Prepare the meat, so don't.
So we're going to see. We're going to see. We going to find out. We are going to find out. But with that being said, let's just dive into today's show and get this thing cracking. So we're going to start out with the first video. But of course, you know me, I got to make sure that they don't hit us with a secret ad along the way, because that's probably what they're going to do. And while this ad is about to roll up to its end, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with the fitness version first. We're going to see how Japan has escaped the obesity and why America can't seem to get it right. America is basically can't get right when it comes to this situation. However, before we get into the fitness topic of the show, let me find my thing. Let's go ahead and do our new fitness intro. Boy, did that not work. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing was that? Jesus, I guess I did an update and it didn't work. It's a sad day. I tried my best. Yeah, that's embarrassing. I did an update and I didn't check to see if it would still have it in there. Is it really that bad? Yeah. Doing me dirty. Well, I guess next show I have to fix it. We'll have our things put together and have everything good. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get this show rolling and pull up on the screen. Bam, here we go. And we're trying to change the banner. Bam. Let me change my other banner real quick before I forget. Bam, there we go. We got both our banners up now. And here we go. We got this nice little Ling on the screen. Hello, how you doing? Yuck, who is that? So here's the video, how Japan escaped obesity while America has gotten fat. Let's see how this rolls, and turn the sound on and take it away. Here we go.
I quickly had this weird feeling that something was off about the people here. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first, but the more I looked around, eventually I realized what it was. Nobody's fat. Since 1960, the obesity rate in America has skyrocketed from 12% to over 40% today. That means America's obesity rate is almost 10 times Japan's obesity rate of just 4.5%.
The average American would be considered fat in Japan. You're like an even American medium level fat, you are completely fat here.
I didn't realize it because I was fitting in like Australian people. But then when I came back to Japan, I noticed that I was fat.
It's way easier to lose weight in Japan.
She said she fat? She's fat in Japan?
I didn't realize it because I was fitting in.
Oh my goodness, she's considered fat in Japan. What? Wow, interesting. That's something to say. Well, let's continue.
Like Australian people. But then when I came back to Japan, I noticed that I was fat.
It's way easier to lose weight in Japan than in the States.
But why? What's Japan's big secret?
Why Japanese people?
There's a million things it could be. Maybe it's green tea.
Or maybe it's lower smoking rates in Japan.
Actually, no. Smoking rates are higher in Japan. 25% of Japanese men smoke, but only 13% of Americans do.
Maybe more people go to the gym here. Actually, no.
Only 3.3% of people have a gym membership here, while 21% of Americans do. Maybe it's because everyone eats fermented soybeans for breakfast.
Actually, it's way simpler than that. The whole food environment is just different in certain key ways.
In Japan, you actually cannot make excuse to gain weight.
Right.
But maybe in the States, maybe it's not the case because you're surrounded, by lots of, food trap.
When I came to Japan all those years ago, I basically just ate whatever looked good, and I was losing weight. So let's say you wake up, you get ready for the day, and you're off to get a good breakfast. What are your options? Well, per person, there are 15 times as many fast food establishments in America compared to Japan. So the average American's breakfast options might look like
hotcakes and sausage, our own egg McMuffin,
The breakfast burrito.
For breakfast at Denny's, the Super Slam.
Single-handedly, the worst croissants I've ever put in my mouth. McGriddle.
Ooh, it's sweet. What the f?
All of our favorite food.
Oh, they're not used to the sweetness. I mean, the McGriddle has always been sweet last time I checked, but I guess, I wonder, you know, I never thought about that, what McDonald's tastes like in different countries. I don't think I've ever tried that before, McDonald's in different countries, because once I leave the States, I lived the States before, but if I ever leave, well, when I left the States, the last thing I wanted to eat was anything American, you know what I mean? So, yeah, McDonald's or anything like that was not on the menu.
So there's plenty of McDonald's you can go to here in Japan, but Japan also has over 4,000 rice bowl establishments.
At places like Yoshinoya, for just $4, you can get what is actually a quite traditional Japanese breakfast. A small bowl of rice, fermented soybeans, roasted fish, and miso soup.
But let's say you don't have much time, and so you just want to...
That's super healthy. What was that, miso rice and fish?
You can get what is actually a quite traditional Japanese breakfast. A small bowl of rice, fermented soybeans, roasted fish, and miso soup.
If you look at the servings, man, like that's actually like a legit size serving. I mean, of course, it varies depending on each person. Of course, if you like count macros and fitness and stuff like that, but that serving size is actually legit. I mean, I would like cut the rice in half and like replace that with more, you know, the meat and protein. But yeah, whenever you learn the serving size, you'll realize how much you have been overeating.
But let's say you don't have much time, and so you just want to grab something quick and go.
The answer? Convenience stores.
7-Eleven. Wow, this is so bustling.
Do I come to Japan just for the 7-Eleven?
I heard 7-Eleven in Japan is like bomb. I heard 7-Eleven is like the bomb, as in good, as in delicioso, as in fantastic. That's what I've heard. Heard you go to 7-Eleven, you can get some really good food. Like, it's legit to eat at 7-Eleven in Japan, but you know, then again, I'd have to go find like, I don't know if that's a middle class person talking or a rich person talking, but from what I see and from what I hear, it seems like Japan's 7-Eleven is on point.
More and more people are posting online about how in love they...
There go the fat girl. Look.
More and more people are
There she
posting...
go. There's what's considered a fat girl right there in Japan. She's considered fat. Oh man, that's considered fat.
Online about...
I mean, well, hey, I guess that's what it is.
How in love they are with Japanese convenience stores, and for good reason. They actually have a huge selection of pretty decent food.
So here's what you can get for about $9 USD.
Fish simmered in miso, ramen-style eggs, a rice ball, roasted chicken, a salad, and a green tea. And they have many other things like a decent selection of roasted fish.
I need to look up Japanese fitness people and bodybuilders. I mean, they said they don't have that many gyms over there. I think it was like 4 or 5% people have gym memberships, opposed to 21% of people in America have gym memberships. I'm just curious as to like how their physique would build out, if, you know, how their physique builds out from like a bodybuilder standpoint. Well, I can't say bodybuilding because a lot of them people be on juice, but you get what I'm saying.
Fruits, salads, and even low-calorie stuff like these noodles made of tofu. The pre-prepared foods are also quite decent.
Not tofu. Tofu is straight soy, so you know you're gonna have a lot of estrogen pumping through your veins. You're gonna turn into a little soy boy.
Like fish with mushrooms and radish, chicken gizzards with green onion, shrimp and squid with broccoli, boiled eggs, and steamed chicken with pickled veggies. The bentos are a little bit more junky, but they're much better than American options. So the first key difference is convenience. Convenience doesn't always mean junk. However, the average American convenience store doesn't have many options of reasonably healthy things to eat. You might be able to get some nuts or a protein bar, but other than that, it's just chips, candy, processed food, and some fried stuff sitting under a heat lamp.
That's true. That's literally 7-Eleven. You got fried chicken, pizza, and then you got sweets, chips, and candy. You know what I mean? That's really it. That's what we have at 7-Eleven.
So yeah, of course, super health conscious Japanese people don't get all their meals from a convenience store.
Only if I'm too busy and I have no time to cook.
The thing is that
Boy, that's the fat girl. That just throws me for a loop, boy. That's the fat girl in Japan. Man, she's a fat girl in Japan. Oh, wow.
I'm too busy and I have no time to cook.
The thing is that the overall standard for food in Japan is much higher in general, so even the convenience stores have reasonably healthy choices. Japan has about 55,000 convenience stores, meaning Japan has almost 10 times as many convenience stores per square kilometer than America, which is great because from what I've seen, Japanese people, or at least Tokyo people, are extremely busy. Japanese people in general sleep way less than Americans, which is actually very unhealthy, yet they're still much thinner. So yeah, there are healthy restaurants and supermarkets in the US.
We believe in real food. Whole Foods Market.
But when it comes to cheap, quick, and convenient food, it's often very unhealthy.
$3 big meal deal, only at 7-Eleven.
In Japan, for lunch, I have the option to buy some fried junk or go to McDonald's for lunch, but it's often just as easy to say walk into Matsuya and get something like a bowl of rice with some stewed beef, a half-boiled egg, some kimchi, and a bowl of miso soup, with plenty of pickled ginger, of course.
Matsuya! Even if you're getting some actual sweets here, they're just not as sweet as Americans.
If you go to any one of these cake places around here, an American would be like, wow, why is it not sweet enough? Whereas a Japanese person would go to America and go, why is it so sweet?
And that's what I hear. Even in Europe, people, I forget what this one woman said. She said she likes to have, was it tea and toast? I think that's what her breakfast, I think it was like breakfast or something, but it was like tea and toast or something like that. And she was like, why is y'all's bread so sweet? I was like, I didn't get what she meant, but she was like, yeah, she had tea and toast, but she said the bread was just hella sweet. And that was in Europe. And now they're saying the same thing. It's like but you know, with America, I believe that's why everybody would be so much fatter, because of just the high sugar content in everything. That's why it's like paramount that you work out like crazy. That's why I have fitness videos on my YouTube channel underneath the video tab that you should go and look at and do home workout videos if you can't get to the gym, because it doesn't seem like a lot of people do. And you can go in there and get your workout at home and get yourself right, so you won't be walking around here looking like, I guess, the fat girl that we have on this video right now that's in Japan.
When I first got to Japan, I thought most things weren't sweet enough. Now, after living in Japan for more than a decade, when I visit America, most things taste way too sweet.
A lot of things are sweeter, a lot sweeter than in Japan. For example, yogurt's very sweet, too sweet. Like it was like a dessert.
I ain't gonna lie, that yogurt right there, this one right here, boy, that stuff is sweet. That cure, I hate to say it, but that be curing my sweet tooth. I throw that on top of like a fruit cocktail I put together, like some blueberries, strawberry, raspberries, bananas, and stuff like that, and throw some yogurt in there. Man, that yogurt takes out all the nutritional factor once I put that together.
For example, yogurt.
And if you see me swinging, going crazy, there's a fly in here and I have to kill him. Or if you see the video go on and I cut the screen off, I'm in the background with the screen off, mercilessly trying to kill this fly that's just like trying to go everywhere. So just try to ignore that.
It's very sweet, too sweet. Like it was like a dessert level.
According to 2021 statistics, the average Japanese person eats half the sugar of Americans. Americans eat 33.7 kilograms of sugar per year, but Japanese people only eat 17.7 kilograms. The thing with sugar is that the reason people eat too much sugar is that they want a lot of sugar because they eat too much sugar. This 2016 study found that after just 2 months of people doing a low sugar diet, cutting their simple sugar intake by 40%, they started to rate sweet foods as significantly sweeter.
Wait, hold on. See that again? So we're looking at sweets.
Sugar. This 2016 study found that after just 2 months of people doing a low sugar diet, cutting their simple sugar intake by 40%, they started to rate sweet foods as significantly sweeter.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I think I would. I mean, because me, for one, I can tell you that sugar is super addicting, because I know that I be having a craving for sweets like it's nobody's business. So, yeah, I could understand that. I could just imagine like going somewhere that didn't have much sweets. That'd probably be somewhere I'd have to live. I might have to move to Japan and just live out there for like the rest of my life, because just the simple fact that you get away from all the sweets and all the sugars. Because out here, man, it is bad. It is terrible. But you know, when you live it, you're used to it. But that's why exercising is important. You gotta get that. You gotta get this shit up out of you.
As much as 40% sweeter than before.
That's exactly what happened to me. At first, Japanese sweets didn't taste sweet enough. Then I got used to it, and now they taste plenty sweet.
So I think the Japanese just eat less sweet, less caloric things, and they eat less of it.
The soda cups are just smaller here in Japan.
This is a large cup at McDonald's in Japan.
And you don't even fill it up. Bruh, at least fill my drink up. Dang, that's a large cup. That's a large. Can you imagine a culture shock when they come here? They'd be like, "Oh my gosh!" But that does make sense. If you live in a bigger city and you have like a bunch of different cultures that come around, and you see them for like 1, 2, 3 years, you realize they be putting on weight like it ain't nobody's business. They'll get fatter and fatter quickly because like you can't get away with not exercising in America. Like if you don't exercise in America, you're getting fat. Like you really can't get away with it unless you have like a natural slender build, but still you're just gonna be unhealthy as hell.
This is an American small.
What? That's an American small. Oh, I didn't even think about that. That is our small. Pause.
The American small is actually slightly larger than the Japanese large. Ooh. And of course, the American large is about twice as big as the Japanese large.
Even the milk is way smaller. This is the standard size of milk here.
Next, take a look at this. The selling point of this sweet drink is actually that it's small. It says nomikiri saizu, meaning a size you can finish. And these half-size drinks are in most of the vending machines.
Bruh, I ain't even gonna lie. Being an American, those vending machines will take all my money because I'm grabbing like 5 or 6 of those and I'm guzzling all of them down just to, because that's what I'm used to, unfortunately.
Hey, why'd you get this small one?
Oh my goodness, I think she's the fat lady in Japan. I just can't get over that.
This size is...
I mean, I can see she probably like mushy underneath, you know what I mean? Like she's probably mushy and soggy underneath, but yeah. Oh man, just different country, different standards.
Too much for me, so I can finish this.
But this one's only 10 yen more. You could have gotten like,
yeah.
This one's like twice as big.
It's too much and I don't want to waste it.
You don't want like a giant drink. You don't want to get like as much drink for your money.
No.
No one in Japan drinks a big gulp. You can't even get it anywhere.
Now that's what I call a large.
I couldn't find any big gulps in Tokyo, but I could find these tiny cans of soda.
People come to...
Oh, Brett, look at that guy's face. Jesus. Okay, we got to get past his ab. He can't find a big gulp at a 7-Eleven. That is a jip, bruh. That's a jip. You can't find a big gulp at 7-Eleven. That's just not fair. That's what 7-Eleven is. 7-Eleven is a big gulp. Bruh. But I digress. Pause. All right, let's get back to the show or the video. So let me go ahead and get this out of here. Who is this? I don't know I've seen this guy before. I don't know his name. Here we go. Continue.
Who drinks this?
What if you go to a restaurant in Japan? What percentage of the people would you say are drinking soda?
I think less than 10%.
Only water and tea?
So yeah, I think so.
It's better.
So Japanese people just don't drink that much soda. The average person here drinks 30 liters of soda a year, but the average American drinks 5 times that much, 154 liters per year.
So for example, with this vending machine, if you...
Hey man, that's a great country to raise your kid in. That would be my assumption. I wonder if China's the same way, but for sure we talking about Japan, so we're gonna stick on Japan. Japan would be a great country to raise your children in, as far as like, they get thirsty. They ain't get no dang soda. They could be on water or tea or whatever these drinks are that they have. Like, your kid ain't gonna be putting on too much weight.
If you didn't want anything sweet, 5 different types of unsweetened tea. You can get water, and then there's black coffee.
By the way, these vending machines are everywhere. Japan has the most vending machines per person on the planet, around 4 million, or 1 for every 30 people. Next is key number 3, school lunch. The Japanese approach to feeding their school kids is completely different from America.
Do the teachers even eat this stuff?
No, we don't eat school lunch.
They don't touch it.
So I'm half American. I went to elementary school in both Japan and the United States. In the United States, the food was just junk food. We had tater tots, we had sloppy joes. It was like everything bad for you. Chocolate milk.
In middle school, we would get chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk for what?
just like, if you want chocolate milk, go ahead.
Serve for lunch at a high school.
Students in Woodbridge.
She said, oh my goodness. That's true though. Sloppy joes, tater tots. And my kid don't even like the food they serve at his school. I'm like, yeah, son, I know that sucks, but yeah.
New Jersey say the food is inedible.
Some high school students who are so sick of their school food, they've started a protest movement against it. In 1970, the law changed. Schools could now turn to private.
Did y'all see that? Look at the people holding the banner.
The food is inedible.
Some high school students who are so sick of their school food, they've started a protest movement.
Look at the people holding the banner, bruh. Look at these people holding this banner. You can tell they just some big people. Even the people behind it, you can't even see their bodies. You can just tell they just some big-bodied people. Jesus.
Against it. In 1970, the law changed. Schools could now turn to private, for-profit companies to feed their students.
In American schools, it's common to have plenty of processed foods on the menu.
You cut back on everything. Salaries, supplies, the food.
But if we go over and take a look at Japan, school lunches are planned out by the school's designated nutritionist. And they are made from scratch every single day.
If you're in Japan, every meal is meant to be healthy. Vegetables, there'd be rice, some fish, some meats, and a little bit.
And that has an impact on the kids and the way they think. You know what I mean? Like the food has a huge impact on the way you think, on your athleticism and ability. Well, partially your athleticism and your abilities, you know what I mean? Like it most importantly, it has a huge way on what you think, on how your brain processes things, on your learning. So that's what's up, that every day they make it fresh and a nutritionist feeds the kids. That's like
a little bit of pickled vegetables, so that by the time that you're 16, 17, 18, you're not going to be fat. It's going to be very rare that you're going to see a child that's fat in Japan. I think that carries you your whole life. It sets your diet.
You got like a nutrition education that actually worked.
Yeah.
The fourth key is portion sizes. The portion sizes are generally just a little smaller wherever you go.
Normal size, like meal size in Australia, is usually big. I couldn't finish eating them, but then I got used to it, and I actually gained 12 kg there.
So that's like 25 pounds.
Double tacos, designed to keep your stomach and your wallet full.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call taco hell. Yeah, you call it Taco Bell, but that's taco hell. I ain't had taco hell in a long time. I remember I took my son there one time. I think I can count on one hand how many times I took my son to Taco Hell. And I mean, it wasn't what it was back in the day. Back in the Munchie days, boy, Taco Hell, plus we had the dollar menu. We ain't got the dollar menu no more. Not like what we used to back in the day. But yeah, Taco Hell just wasn't hitting. The portion size, when you look at the meat, you like, what the hell is this meat that I'm eating? Pause. Like, what is this? So yeah, ugh.
I'm full! America's biggest breakfast for only $9.99.
I think there's two big reasons why Japan doesn't take the American approach of giving you huge portions to make you feel like you got your money's worth.
Because it's not their culture. Why the hell would they follow a different country's culture? Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. That completely eradicates your purpose of culture in your country. Why would you follow portion sizes and how another country eats and what they feed their people? You know what I mean? It's like, you're Japanese. You eat Japanese food. You have a Japanese culture. You have Japanese language. Why would you follow the American way of doing things that completely obliterates your culture? You wouldn't be Japan anymore. You'll just be Japanese American.
First off, don't do this in Japan. A big concept here is mottainai, or wasteful.
Elementary school, middle school, if you cannot finish the meal, you don't have like lunch break.
So you just have to sit there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like I remember some of my friends couldn't finish eating and then like crying and eating. The idea came from like mottainai. You cannot waste the food because that's the life of plants and animals. Yeah, leaving food is considered bad.
It's kind of bad, man.
So you get smaller portions and the kids sometimes can't finish the meals, and then you get punished. Well, I'm gonna say punished. I guess you can call it a punishment, not a severe one, but you get punished for wasting food. So you actually have a respect for the food that you're eating, and you know, I don't want to, because then in the future, you're like, I don't want to get too much and throw it away because there's going to be a consequence for that action. Which here, you don't want to just throw it away, and it's like, there's no consequence, and there's no respect for, like she said, no respect for the food, the plants, and nature and stuff like that. That is a hell of a mindset to have. Shout out to Japan. I got to come visit y'all.
To leave unfinished.
When we get big on this YouTube channel, we get stuff floating like crazy. We're going to be doing, YouTubes in Japan and videos in Japan, because I'm going to still be traveling and doing fitness. That's never going to change. So you'll see the travel and the fitness go hand in hand. But we'll also be doing like this show in different countries, but for sure Japan is on the list.
Food, and especially rice, scattered about on your
Okay, now the chopsticks though, I still needs me a fork. I'm sorry.
Plate. Next, it's not really a thing here to get a container to take leftovers home. You're expected to finish your meal at the restaurant. So the average restaurant serves people reasonably sized, not too big portions that most people should be able to finish in one sitting.
Oh man, not the egg though. I gotta scramble my egg. You can't just give me an egg yolk. But actually, that's a good thing at a restaurant though, because they're not thinking about you're going to leave needing a to-go box. Think about this. For a restaurant, if you run a restaurant or whatever, and you don't have to supply to-go boxes, that's a whole I guess profit margin that you will now have, if that makes sense. You know, that's an expense that you eliminate for your business. So that's actually a good idea.
Reasonably sized, not too big portions that most people should be able to finish.
But then again, Japan is an island, so I'm pretty sure them getting goods and everything does cost them. So it makes smart sense to live the way they live as well.
In one sitting.
Most packages of snacks here are sized so that you can comfortably finish them without feeling stuffed.
Like, look how small all these little packages of chocolates are.
If you eat the normal American diet, you'll get fat. In Japan, if you just eat what everyone else eats, then you get thin.
Yeah.
Do you think that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think it's accurate.
There are some people who are, maybe starting to get a little bit overweight, and I suspect they're eating too much junk food.
So the fifth point is,
I wonder what they Wendy's is like over there.
A little bit overweight.
Let me
I
see.
suspect it just.
Does their Wendy's look Wendy's chili burger? They got fries. They got the same thing. I mean, I'm just curious if I'm curious if their Wendy's hit different. Like if it tastes different, if the portions, I guess the portion size would be different as well, because they showed us what a small Coke is. So yeah.
They're eating too much junk food.
So the fifth point is variety. It's easy to eat and drink healthy when you have plenty of options and when you're not getting bored eating the same handful of healthy meals over and over again. People can eat big portions of junk if they want, but it's usually just as easy to get a variety of reasonably priced, relatively healthy food.
What I like about drinking culture in Japan is that even if you keep drinking at the izakaya or bar, you see so many menu, the healthy food on menu. If you go to America, fried chicken, fried potato, like French fried.
Most of the places to go to drink have decent food options. You can.
So he said just everything that he sees is just fried, which is true, because personally, I try to stay away from fried food myself. So I agree with him on that. I mean, if you're going to have chicken, at least, bake your chicken, grill your chicken or something like that, frying and all that stuff and French, all that stuff, man. You're like, yeah. I agree with him on that.
Expect to get some really solid food that's actually quite healthy at a classic Japanese pub, an izakaya. There are about 7,500 izakayas in Japan, more than the total number of fast food burger chains like McDonald's or Burger King. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you should replace fast food with alcohol, but even if you're walking in somewhere planning to get drunk, there's all kinds of simple, healthy, and delicious dishes. There's one other quick point I want to touch on, but first let me make it clear that there are better quality food options than convenience stores, rice bowl chains, or izakayas, of course. Most Japanese people wouldn't even think of these places as healthy. But this isn't about optimal health. It's about how you can be reasonably healthy with not that much effort.
Did you make this with vegetable oil?
Oh, yes.
Thanks, but I gotta watch what I eat.
Lately, the word has been getting out about how bad vegetable oils or seed oils are for health. It's kind of impressive how clever marketing got us to think that we need to crush and heavily refine thousands of seeds with a long industrial process to get the oil that we need to cook with to be healthy.
With high pressure, forcing out the oil to a second extraction. 70-minute wash with a solvent. They wash the oil with sodium hydroxide. They bleach it, then use a steam injection heating process to remove the canola odor.
Sure, you can buy vegetable oil in Japan and people do cook with it, but it's very interesting to note that Japanese people consume about 1/2 of the seed oils of Americans. The ironic thing about seed oils is that they become more unhealthy when you cook with them, especially if you fry with them. That's because the fats are very fragile and easily break down when heated, which is not the case for saturated fats like, say, beef tallow, which are very resilient to heat. This brings us to the sponsor of this video, the seed oil. So I've been avoiding chips for about 4 years now, ever since I learned about all the negative health effects of seed oils. You probably saw my 2 different videos on the topic. This is why I'm personally really excited about Masa chips. They made a delicious tortilla chip out of beef tallow, but these are the most salty. A corn on the Joseph WIL.
Man, okay, he ended his video with a freaking sponsorship, but however, that was a very, very, very good and informative video. So shout out to them for making this video. I enjoyed that. That was good. And if you want to find that video, the name of the channel is called What I've Learned, and it's probably one of the more recent videos. So what I've learned and about the obesity and why Americans are fat. So if you want to go check that out and watch that again, or follow more of his videos, which he does have some very good videos. I've watched him for years at this point and lost track of him, but now he's back on my radar. I'm probably going to do some more videos with him because that was a very interesting watch. I enjoyed that one. That was a good one, man. Again, round of applause. That was great. But yeah, man, just trying to control your portion sizes and not sitting here eating all sorts of oils and fried this and fried that. It's just like in America, you can't escape it. And their 7-Eleven is completely different, which is crazy compared to ours. Our 7-Eleven is fried foods, pizza, and after that, you're stuck with chips, drinks, and candy. That's it. That's really all you got in a 7-Eleven. There's nothing healthy about really a convenience store, period. That's really a convenience store. Oh, you got donuts and stuff like that. So to go to a convenience store and to have healthy food options, that's a game changer. But the purpose of having healthy food options all over the place, man, is why not just being thin, but your brain, man. Your brain needs a healthy diet. You have to think healthy. And it doesn't seem like a lot of people exercise that much because the gym memberships were low and stuff like that. But I don't think that plays a very big role into, you know, why they're so healthy the way they look. Now, they do work their ass off. That's one thing I will say. These people be deleting themselves whenever it comes to working too much. So they do got a working problem. Bruh. But now that's starting to be a thing globally. I think the overworking that they do, if you ever look into Japan, how they work their people literally to death, which is sad. But that's starting to become a global phenomenon, even over here in the States. Bruh. So it's like, if you're super rich, you get a little bit of luxury. But other than that, if you ain't super uber duper rich, you're going to be working till, you know, the end of, you know, your lifeline, because they're, you know, they're taking away Social Security and Medicaid and all that stuff. And if you ain't got no money and you ain't grinding and getting it in, they looking at you like, yeah. They looking at you like, oh, you ain't got no money? I'm sorry. Well,
prepare the meat, so don't.
Yeah, they're gonna look at you like, get up out of here, sir. We don't need you. One less person to deal with. And speaking of eliminating people, this is a perfect segue to segue us over into the next portion of the show, which is going to be the economy of the show, which is going to talk about the world population and how it's collapsing. And that's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the world is collapsing via population and how it's been going on. It's just slowly been happening, but it's about to expedite. It's about to pick up here pretty soon. It's about to, I mean, it's already been picking up, but it's about to get really, 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 really bad. Because when you're pricing people out of living. That's one thing. And then the relationship aspect of it plays a huge toll, because men and women are fighting. Because first it started off where, you know, we had families, but now the economy that we live in, women are making money. So now that women are making money, there's a selfish aspect that comes with that is anti-family, or like a competition. It causes a competition between the two genders, which sucks, but it is what it is. Then you add on a high cost of living with that. So, and then you add hedonism on top of that as well. So now you have competition between the genders, hedonism. So it's like they fighting against each other, but yet they still clapping. You know what I mean? They're still having intercourse with each other. And then there's then there's no families being brought together. So then there is this like underlining current of like, well, if we're not having kids and we're just sleeping with each other with just changing partners and nobody's getting together, but we're competing against one another, where does that lead us? I mean, that's just going to lead us in one direction, which is going to lead us down into a collapse of not just the economy, but a collapse of just people in general. So this next video that we're going to watch, and let me go ahead and change the banner since we segue over into the economy portion of the show. This video is going to show us exactly how that's looking and how long it's been going, and it's going to give us a backstory and all this good stuff. So it's going to be good to see. So coming in from a healthy lifestyle with Japan and seeing how that healthy lifestyle works out very well, but then also seeing how a collapse going on in the future, or not in the future, but a collapse that's happening right now is going to be kind of inevitable to avoid, because just the economics of life in general right now is hitting people hard. And the thing is like there's the not just the gender issue, but on top of that, there is the, what do I call this? Generation issue. You got the boomers, the Gen X, the millennials, the Gen Z, and then the Gen Alphas, which is like the young kids right now. There's this huge like a misunderstanding between each one. Like the Gen X, the boomers and the Gen X have a little bit of a harder time. Boomers have no idea what's going on unless they see that their retirement is dwindling and they got to go back to work. Gen X, they like got a 50-50 chance of comprehending what's going on depending on what class or what financial standing they're in. The millennials, my generation, we looking around and we're looking up and we're looking back and we're like, yo, this is not good. This is going to be horrible, because we see how you got to work your ass off and have 2, 3, 4, 5 different kind of ways of income just to get by. And then you see like the older generations, they don't really understand like how the financial system is working, because when they were coming up getting a house and how much rent costs and all this stuff, it was different for them. To get like a regular job at a factory or at whatever that could take care of their family, that stuff don't work no more. So now the millennials are looking and they can see how the boomers think, and then they can see what's going on with the Gen Z, and they can see what's happening with Gen Alpha. And we're looking back and we thinking like, yo, this ain't finna be good, because Social Security is about to be taken away in a few years. Medicaid is gonna be taken away in a few years. Social Security maybe like 5 or 7 years tops. So with that happening, we're seeing the hedonism with Gen Z, because all they grew up in the world of internet, so all they see is sex. I mean, or should I call it smex? Just in case you two want to say something. Like Gen Z sees a lot of smex. Like they have a phone in their hand, and the internet is no holds barred. You can see all sorts of hedonism from having a phone in your hand. Then on top of that, you've had divorce culture go on from boomers and Gen X. Gen X like crazy, is ridiculous with and then with the social media thing adding all of this up, you're realizing like Gen Z doesn't see the value in having a job because it doesn't benefit them to cover any expenses or bills because everything's being so overpriced. Boomers are like hoarding all the money. Gen X may be doing some of that too as well. And then the 2008 crisis that we went through, they even said that we're selling out our future grandkids back when they bailed out the banks. Now that was, if you think about it, that was damn near 20 years ago at this point. It's like we're coming up on 20 years almost 20 years ago from when the housing market crashed. And they said it back then that we are basically selling out our future grandkids. Well, we're about to be 20 years in, and we're seeing the effects of it and how bad it's looking. And like everybody finna be screwed, boy. It's a dark and crazy world. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into this video. So I'm gonna look at the world population collapse that no one's talking about. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up right here and see what exactly is going on. And this is gonna be by 2-Bit Da Vinci. Shout out to you, fair use. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video and see how this collapse is happening. Here we go.
Graph of the human population over the... If you saw this graph of the human population over the centuries, you might be thinking we're heading for disaster. A world with overpopulation, food shortages, and increasing global conflict over increasingly scarce resources. We've gotten so good at maintaining human populations between modern medicine, modern farming, and water and waste management. But as an engineer, I always look deeper at the data. And in this video, I want to make a case for quite the opposite. We're actually looking at the beginning of a population collapse, and with it, different but critical worldwide challenges. This is a good example of where it pays to think like an engineer. So let's see if we can find some trends and figure this all out together. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Da Vinci. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's start with how we got here. In the year 400, the world population was around 242 million. Don't ask me how they figured this stuff out. It's pretty amazing. It would take another 1,100 years to double the population in the year 1500, around the time Columbus sailed the ocean blue, to 503 million. It would double again to 1 billion in 1805, just 300 years later. In 1927, it would double again to 2 billion in just 122 years. In just 49 years after that, it would double again to 4 billion in 1976. The next doubling just happened in 2022 when we reached a population of 8 billion. 46 years later. Now, you might be tempted to extrapolate from here and figure the world population will break 16.
So 46 years, a 4 billion increase in people on Earth. 4 billion in 40-something years, as opposed to what it was. Let me get the caption out the way, because that's blocking stuff. There we go. We can see that better. So like starting here, and then technology increased, but we hit 1 billion in, was it the early 1900s or 18? Let's see real quick. I got to hear that again. Let's hear that again.
And 3 million. It would double again to 1 billion in 1805.
So in the 1800s, we had 1 billion people on this earth. So 1800, we had a billion. Golly, in 1800s, we had 1 billion. 1800s isn't that long ago. I mean, 200 years is long, but we're at 8 billion in 200 years, as opposed to getting to 1 billion by 1800. If you really think about that, that is a hell of an increase.
Just 300 years later. In 1927, it would double again to 2 billion in just 122 years. In just 49 years after that, it would double again to 4 billion in 1976. The next doubling just happened in 2022 when we reached a population of 8 billion, 46 years later. Now, you might be tempted to extrapolate from here and figure the world population will break 16 billion sometime around 2070. But that...
Okay, so look at, so this is just a, this is my synopsis. I'm giving in my personal, my synopsis on what I'm seeing. If you look at this chart, right, and you get to where we're at 8 billion, right? When you see us get to 8 billion, and then you are looking at the 8 billion to 16 billion, which is just a projection or trajectory of what it would be in the future. But look at what's going on now. If you add AI to that equation, and if you look at that like a stock market graph or any kind of chart, there has to be, I hate to say it, but there has to be a pullback. You know what I mean? Like nothing increases exponentially straight up and never sees a pullback. Nothing works that way. There's nothing that goes straight up and just increases into oblivion. There's always a pullback of some sort. And if this is how it's looking, that means that this pullback is going to be brutal as hell.
Won't be the case. We're still growing, but not exponentially anymore. The population is growing more slowly every day. That means that contrary to what most people think, we won't grow indefinitely. The world population will reach a maximum, plateau, and then begin to drop. And it'll drop really quickly. 23 countries, including China, Spain, Italy, Japan, and even Russia, will likely see their populations halve by 2100. Japan's projected drop is particularly dramatic. Researchers expect Japan's population to shrink from its peak of 128 million in 2017 to just 53 million by the end of the century.
Now that's crazy. We just saw how healthy Japan eats. We're looking at how healthy Japan eats and how good everything looks and how they're taking care of the kids and eating. But now we're looking at a different side of this situation now. Now we're looking at how there's going to be a population collapse. And you going from 128 to 53 million. And what was the time span? Oh, where is it? What was the time span?
That's an almost 60% drop. To just 53. Population shrink from its peak of 128 million in 2017 to just 53 million by the end of the century.
By the end of what would the end of the century be? So by the time we get to the year 2100 is what they're talking about. So what are we at? 2025? So in 75 years, we're just going to see a straight decline for the next 75 years. We're supposed to see a decline in populations all over the world. And to go from 128 to 53, what is that? Well, I mean, he said it's a 60% decrease. That is that 60%? Because 60 and 60 is going to be one. Whatever. Well, I'm going to say 50 to be safe, but he said 60%. But to see a constant decrease for the next 75 years, think about that. And it's not just Japan, it's global. And Japan has healthy eating. So if Japan has healthy eating from what we just seen and how they feed their people, and they're going to see a decline by 75%, I mean, by 60% for the next 75 years, imagine what other places who are not healthily feeding their economy, and how people not eating healthy and taking care of themselves, imagine what they're going to feel.
That's an almost 60% drop. One of the first whistleblowers related to a demographic crisis was Paul Ehrlich's 1968 book, The Population Bomb. He was one of the first to propose that the population and explosion would be met by a shortage of resources, later leading to war, famine, and finally collapse by the year 2000. Later in 1972, researchers from MIT reached a similar conclusion but set the deadline at around 2040, caused also by resource depletion, pollution, and social collapse. These predictions not only made their way into mainstream pop culture, but they also affected policy. In fact, China imposed a one-child policy dubbed Late, Long, and Few, which cut population growth in half between 1970 and 1976.
I think that was a bad idea. A one-child policy? Like, what did you do with the other kids that were born? I mean, bruh, one child policy. And then I think China's one child policy, if I'm not mistaken, no, China has something where I believe I think the firstborn child has to be a son or something like that. Something with China is like a firstborn child has to be a son, but they had a one child policy clearly from what he's referring to. But that didn't pan out too well. And I know China, I think they got like too many men and not enough women, or something's wrong with China. I'll look it up as this goes on. But here we go. Let's continue.
Other countries had similar things, like in India, where sterilization programs were taking foot. However, the following decade saw strong exponential growth and steered away from those projections, which is why most people my age always seem to worry about there being too many people on Earth rather than too few. In fact, in 2021, the United Nations forecast was that the population would increase to 11 billion by the end of this century. This is why I was really surprised to find out that we're headed in the totally opposite direction. A recent study commissioned by the organization The Club of Rome predicts that if current trends continue, the world's population, which is currently 7.96 billion, will peak at 8.6 billion in the middle of the century before declining by nearly 2 billion before the century's end. Another study by the University of Washington published in The Lancet predicts it'll rise to 9.7 billion by 2064, then fall off to 8.8 billion by 2100. While it could drop all the way to 6.3 billion if the UN Sustainable Development Goals are met. That's a drop of 3.4 billion people in just 34 years.
Okay, that is a lot. Dang, that is a lot. Okay, so right here, AI is talking to me and says, I put in China child policy today. And it says right here that currently China has implemented a 3-child policy, which allows married couples up to 3 children. This policy was announced in May of 2021 and formally passed into law in August of 2021, ending decades of stricter birth limits like the 1-child policy. The shift to a 3-child policy is a response to the country's declining birth rate and an aging population, which raised concern about the shrinking workforce and potential economic challenges. The Chinese government hopes to encourage couples to have more children to address these demographic issues. I don't think that's going to happen, because if there's a strain on the economy, how are you going to have children? Because children cost money; they're not free. So if you're going to have a more expensive economy, tariffs and all this stuff, basically what we're seeing is economic warfare going on. How are you going to ask people to have more children if you can't afford to take care of them? That's going to be the issue. And then, in my opinion, that's where AI comes in.
Well, it took us 42 years to grow from 4.56 billion to 7.96 billion that we're at today. This means the projected drop is faster than the growth we've had for all these years. So give or take a couple of billion people, one thing is clear. It's very likely that we're living in the time when there are the most human beings on this planet that there ever will be, ever. Just take a minute to let that sink in. It really blew my mind.
I mean, that could be true, because if allegedly he's saying that we're living in a time where the most people on Earth, and if the next step that we're moving in is AI and robots, then yeah, that would probably be legit analysis to say, because now we're moving towards AI being, working in the workforce, basically doing every work related stuff that humans do. So there would be it would be kind of impossible for humans to reproduce, because then you can't provide or take care for your kid. And if or when they implement universal basic income, that's going to dictate if you're able to even raise a child or not, and it's going to put people at a huge halt, a standstill, as to be like, I don't want to have kids. How are we going to take care of our kids if we're on a stipend from the government, and the government is going to dictate if you're able to raise that kid or not? Because all you got to do is shut your digital money off. So that's a good analysis that we're probably at the height of people. I mean, I don't know about history or ever, but there's always a starting over. I mean, even in the Bible, at the very beginning of Genesis, it said to repopulate the earth. That means it was already populated prior. So at this point, I mean, it might be the most humans. Who knows, after this AI stuff go down in the next, God knows how many centuries it takes over, and then it destroys and start over again. Who knows? But yeah.
Mind. Let me know what you think. Are we lucky to live in this unique time? Are we unlucky? Let's get the conversation going. Someone recently asked me how we go about making these videos. I'm not gonna lie, it's a mental health battle. We can for help that makes
he's striking
about
his
new beings
sponsor.
have engineered the environment since we stopped being nomads. We just made a video about new technologies that are feeding the world, and we still have plenty of room to grow. No, the problem is that birth rates and fertility rates are collapsing. The birth rate is the total number of live births per every 1,000 people in the population during any given year. If birth rates decline, then there won't be enough children to offset the number of people who died during the same year, leading to a reduced population, if you don't count immigration. To be fair, the decline in birth rate is nothing new. It started around 1760 at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. This was caused mainly by modernization and then urbanization as people moved into big cities. Women started studying and working and pursuing life goals other than becoming moms, leading to a reduced fertility rate.
That right there was a huge death blow right there. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want, but women should be able to work and do what they want to do. But when they migrated everybody into the city and gave them that city life, that city feel, and city business and city thriving, like, yeah, women couldn't turn that attention and all that, lights and pretty stuff away. They were like, screw these families. We finna go get this money. Well, AI finna shut that down. Men too. I mean, men ain't perfect. We got our flaws and stuff, but I do believe that men look at society as a whole as opposed to themselves.
Another important factor that drove birth rates down was the fact that the rate of kid survival into adulthood increased dramatically.
But then that could go by your class as well. I mean, if you're a low class person, then you ain't gonna, if you're a low class, then you're not gonna care about society. You're gonna be out here impregnating like 62 women and having 1 billion kids and not taking care of them. But for the most part, most men are gonna be more responsible and think about society as a whole as opposed to themselves.
At the beginning of the 20th century, half your kids were likely to die as children. However, in those times when most people had family farms, they needed those kids to work the fields and to help provide for the family. So families needed to have plenty of children. Now, almost all kids reach adulthood, so families don't need to have so many kids.
Now, keep in mind what he just described right here. This way of life will never go away. This way of life will always be a part of living. You can never take away this part of life. Farming, raising your kids, and teaching your kids to raise on a farm, it's just a matter of choice. You got willpower to do what the hell you want. So if you can if you can get a piece of land, hopefully get a allodial title to it, which would be a challenge. But if you can get a piece of land, get a allodial title, and be able to enforce your God-given rights, and be able to bring your children up and not have them polluted by the technology that reaches out and grabs everybody, you can still have this, grow your own food, water well, and your own electricity and all that good stuff. You can still have it. It's just gonna be extremely, extremely, extremely hard to keep the family in order mentally to want to keep this structure of living to the next generation, as opposed to going in and living the worldly way of like city lights and stuff like that.
So families needed to have plenty of children. Now, almost all kids reach adulthood, so families don't need to have so many kids. It's almost unimaginable today, but it would be like thinking, hey, I need 4 kids to help me around the farm. So if half are gonna die, we should probably have 8 kids as quickly as possible. Today, if you wanted 4 kids, you would have 4 kids and they'll probably all reach adulthood. The fertility rate is the average number of children a woman of child-rearing age.
That's gotta be a hell. Can you imagine that, knowing that you can have kids, but half of them are not gonna make it? What is this? That's horrible. And knowing that half of your kids ain't gonna make it, you gotta, your kid losing this life before you, then you gotta bury him and all that. Half. That's, oh man, that's tough.
Will have. As you can see in this graph, fertility rates have been dropping consistently in the last century and are projected to keep dropping. There's a critical fertility rate that defines when populations start to collapse. It's called the replacement level fertility, which is the level of fertility at which a population exactly replaces from one generation to the next, leading to a stable population. In developed countries, replacement level fertility is 2.1 children per woman. Remember, this is an average. It's not like you're going to have 2.1 children. It's more like out of 10 women of childbearing age, 9 will have 2 kids and 1 will have 3. So the population starts to fall once the average fertility rate drops below approximately 2.1. Right now, it's around 2.27, and according to projections from the UN, it'll fall below 2.1 by around 2050 and below 1.7 by 2100. But
well, that's coming. I mean, like I said, it's only 75 years away, and that doesn't take that long to get to. Because think about it. Can you imagine from 2019 to 2025? Because 2019 was the last time we lived a life pre-pandemic style, right? Then once 2020 hit, pandemic kicked in, all this craziness of a strong flu hitting the air and propaganda all over the news, right? But just 2019 to 20, for me it'd be 2017 to 2025, but 2019 to 2025, those 6 years went by like that, like just in a breeze, quickly. Just how significant everything changed in that short amount of time. So yeah, so here we go. Let's pull this back up. Let's continue. Up.
Country level by 2100. But that's the 2.1.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying that for. So the fact that 2019 to 2025 has went by so quick, 2100 ain't that far away. I mean, it may seem like it, but it'll be here before you know it. Like it'll, I mean, a lot of us won't live to see it, but as far as the population declining and going down, in our lifetime, you know, the next 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to see billions of people die. Like billions die faster than, you know, I think what I'm trying to say is we have 8 billion people. I think in the next 20, 30, 40 years, if you're still alive, we'll be able to see the population go down instead of up. I think that's what we'll be able to see, unfortunately.
On 2050 and below 1.7 by 2100. But that's the global average. At a country level, things are far worse in most nations. 183 out of 195 countries, including the US, already have fertility rates below replacement levels. The lowest of the low is Korea, where women are having 0.78 children on average. This implies that over 20% of Korean women are childless.
0.78 children. Just say 0. They ain't having no babies. I mean, I get it, one every once in a while. Good. Well, which Korea though? You got North and you got South Korea. I wonder if they put them both together. I wonder. Oh look, Niger. I don't know if y'all watched my show the other day, but somebody in the comment section on Kick was so angry at me. They were saying Niger. I was like, yeah, you're calling me Niger unless you're trying to spell the other word, but you can't because you know the comment section will get you. You know the bot or yeah, you know you can't say certain words in the chat. You'll get flagged or whatever. But anyway, in Korea, though, to just have one child, China having one child, Japan having 1.3, as healthy as they're eating, Russia at 1.4. So just looking at this, and people only having one kid, the economy is tough all over. It's going to be, I mean, we headed to doom.
If you're wondering, in the US, the fertility rate is just 1.664, way below replacement levels. The only reason why our population hasn't started collapsing yet is because of immigration. This puts things into perspective, doesn't it? The highest fertility rate is in the...
So if immigration wasn't going rampant and crazy right now, we would probably be like down here somewhere. To be quite honest, I think that's a truth. If immigration wasn't going on like crazy, I think we'd be down here like Japan, China. Hell, we might be right above Korea. It's no telling, but that's the only thing that's holding things together is, as far as families go, is the immigrants, because they, you know, they're like everywhere they go, they're like 5 deep.
African country, Niger, where every woman has 6.82 children on average. It's no wonder Niger also has the highest birth rate in the world with 45.2 births per 1,000 people every year.
Well, maybe those people in my comment section on that last show wasn't trying to cuss me out. Maybe they were trying to tell me to go to Niger. I just be hopeful thinking. They were probably trying to tell me to go to Niger. They were like, Niger Niger. I mean, they said a couple of black this and black that, but they kept saying Niger. I was like, yeah, that's not how you spell the word I think you're trying to say. But maybe, God don't make mistakes. So maybe it was like, hey, go over here. I'm trying to tell you, go over here.
I don't know if you know this, but China is no longer the largest country in the world by population. India overtook China for the first time in history last April, even though their birth rate fell below their replacement levels in December 22. 10 years ago, India's fertility rate was 3.5, and today, it's approximately 2. Now, there is a long list of reasons, but one of the main drivers for the fertility drop today is that women enjoy a better quality of life. They're more educated and have better job opportunities.
I told you. I said that right there was the death blow. Letting women go to work. That was the death blow. Soon as you let women out the house and go to work, the hedonism goes up, the family go down, and men care more about the society. Women care more about themselves. And if they do have a kid, they're like, oh, I just need 1 or 2. And they'll be more persuading themselves to raise it in a single family home as opposed to a double. But I called it. Feminism, there you go.
In many cases, women today prioritize their careers over having a family. Or if they do have children, it'll be much later on in life because the more you go to school, the more you study, the later you start your family. Some other reasons, according to experts, are 1, many families and couples are delaying having children because of how expensive raising children is. However, across the board, women who reach 30 without having a child only have a 50-50 chance of becoming mothers in the future. According to one survey, as many as 80% of women who end up being childless didn't intend to be childless. They just delayed motherhood for too long. Many people today, Gen Z men in particular, simply decide not to have children at all. Also, people don't seem to be dating as much anymore. Many people have delusions and unrealistic expectations that hold them back from relationships, which may explain why in China, approximately 240 million people, that's almost 20% of the population, are single. Digital entertainment, social media, OnlyFans have all created distractions from dating, making people less likely to want to have children. In fact, it surprised me to learn that young people today are simply having less sex. Then there's access to condoms and birth control pills.
I don't believe that. These young people are not having less sex. Young men are having less sex. These young women are busting it wide open. That's what I don't think the younger are having less. It's the young men are not able to get as much. These young women, they getting packed out. They getting ran through, and it's easy for them to do because as soon as they turn 18, number one, they can just create an OnlyFans. If you're in a country where you don't have OnlyFans, that doesn't have anything to do with you not being able to get access to men to sleep with you. Whether the guy is your age or a little bit too significantly older. You know, you could be an 18-year-old girl and find an established man, 40 or 50. Could care less how you feel about it. Those are facts of life that we deal with. And these 18-year-old girls, 20-year-old, they going to do it. Are you going to stop them? No, because then what are you to tell her not to do something? You're oppressing her, and that goes against what's being taught to women. Don't tell women what to do. Don't oppress them. You know, don't stop them from doing what they want to do. They fought for this. So it's not the younger generations having less sexual encounters. It's the younger men. The men are not having as much intercourse. The women, they getting ramrod through.
Prepare the meat so don't.
Exactly.
Which is arguably the greatest factor in lower birth rates. In Britain, for example, from 1950 to 1960, 60% of married couples used condoms. 60%. Some of those causes have become highly politicized topics of debate.
I don't know how you can prove that. I'm going to have to disagree with him on that one. You can't, there's no way you can prove that whatsoever. No. You can't prove who's wearing and who's not. And if a lot of people are wearing, if a lot of people are wearing protection, if they are, then it doesn't explain why the STD, STI rate is so high. It just doesn't explain. It doesn't add up. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't add up at all. You're asking people to tell you the truth. But who's to say they're going to tell you the truth if they actually wear protection or not?
Between conservatives and liberals. Why don't you hit pause for a second and leave a comment answering some of these questions? I think the cultural aspects are fascinating, and I'd love to know what all of you think. Okay, so those are some of the facts, but what does it matter if there are fewer of us on Earth? Isn't that a good thing? I mean, wouldn't cutting the population down by 20% or more come with an equivalent drop in energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions and water usage?
I mean, let's think of it. Is that a good thing? Well, according to the Almighty God, it said to repopulate the earth. And then if we depopulate the earth, well, think about the elites that have been running the earth these past like 5-10 centuries. They have been very merciless on their spree to do what they want to do and keep their foot on. Because you got to understand, the economy is in a pickle by design. This is a choice. Somebody chose by design to make the economy be in a tight situation right now. That's a design. That's a structural design for it to be in a pickle that it's in right now. So then if you do depopulate, how is it going to be good? You're just going to be enslaved to the people that have it all, and they've already proved that their intentions are not in your best interest.
Wouldn't that kind of save the world? That is not an easy question to answer, especially not without stepping on some toes. You see, the problem isn't just the population itself, it's also how the population is made up. The problem is that life expectancy has been on the rise at the same time as birth and fertility rates have been declining. So it's not just fewer people are being born, it's also that people are living a lot longer. So the population is generally getting older. Population demographics by age have been a pyramid for most of human history, with more young people on the bottom than older ones on top. Today in countries like China, Russia, the US, Japan, and Korea, that has changed into almost a square. For example, here in the States, we have a roughly equal number of baby boomers, 69 million, Gen X, 67 million, millennials, 72 million, and Gen Z, 69 million. And
look at that. So the baby boomers are still ticking. They're still living. There's less Gen X. But then, you know, Gen X was out there clapping cheeks and put out a bunch of, well, you could say the millennials could be a product of some later freaky baby boomers and Gen X's. But then the Gen X's, they ended up dealing with the high divorce situation. Because the baby boomers, they had a situation where they were having babies, but you know, sometimes people were abandoning their kids or whatnot. So then the child support thing came in and they put that ball and chain on Gen X. And you know, Gen X was out there slinging and doing a thing. And you know, we come with a high divorce rate, we come with high single parents and all that stuff. And it comes down to the millennials. And then the millennials are supposed to be having a bunch of kids because Gen X is having millennials and Gen Zs. But now millennials are going to be having Gen Alphas, maybe Gen Zs, but Gen Alphas for sure. And I'm curious to see what that would be.
And things are projected to get worse all over the world. The fastest growing demographic in the world today is people over 85 years old. To give you an idea of how bad this is, by 2100, the number of kids under 5 is expected to shrink from 681 million in 2017 to 400 million. While at the same time, the number of people 80 plus years of age will skyrocket from 141 million in 2017 to 866 million by 2100. We're going to end up with an inverted pyramid at some point, which is why Elon Musk quotes civilization ending in adult diapers. The effect is a massive drop in population that's already happening and that's fueled by a negative feedback loop. This generation is having fewer kids, so there'll be fewer people of reproductive age in the next generation who will also likely want to avoid having kids, and so the cycle gets stronger and stronger. Let's look at some specific examples of countries that will have it rough before the end of the century.
But this is all because of this is all going to be because of a tightening on the economy. And then when you bring AI into the picture, it's going to make it even tighter. You know what I mean? So we're going to have a tight economy, and then when the AI comes into the picture, having robots and stuff like that, it's going to make it even more tighter. And at the end of the day, who decides to make the economy expensive? Who's making the economy super expensive to put a chokehold around reproduction? Who has that power to make food so expensive, healthcare so expensive, wages stagnant, and then increase, mortgages and rent? Who has that power to put the economy in a chokehold to where you don't want to reproduce? And I've done videos on this. If you go back to my videos, if you look back into my past videos, I did a video, or I did a series, part 1 through 8, or volume 1 through 8, whatever you want to call it. It was called Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind. That will answer exactly what he's referring to.
Russia is the first example. It has seen a double dip in birth rates caused by the fall of the Soviet Union and again by the war in Ukraine. This drop has been met with an increase in death rates and massive emigration, both caused by the war in Ukraine and the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the bad economic climate. This graph shows Russia's population from 1960 to 2050. As you can see, Russia's population has been shrinking for some time now. Remember in your high school calculus class when you were thinking, what on earth am I ever going to do with derivatives in my life? Well, here's a perfect example of mathematics and application. You see, to find the exact maximum on a graph, all you need to do is look at the graph for its first derivative. That's because the first derivative shows the slope of the original curve. When that slope is 0, that means you've got either a peak or a trough. If the derivative passes through 0 going down from left to right, then you're in a peak, and vice versa. Notice how the green line crosses the horizontal 0 line 3 times. So when the slope is 0, you have a maximum or a minimum. And that's kind of what I've been looking at. If you just looked at the raw numbers, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, the population is going up. But the derivative tells a different story. In 1950, China had 500 million people. It's a lot. But in 70 years, they jumped to 1.4 billion. That was massive growth that drove their economic prosperity. But China peaked at 1.41 billion people in 2021, and projections now point to losing 700 to 800 million people by the end of the century. Two big causes for China's population collapse are a plummeting fertility rate and reduced birth rate coupled with an increased death rate without immigration. Add in an increase in life expectancy, which is already 81, and you have a perfect population aging storm. But here's where the big difference between the US and China is. The Chinese population drop is big news because as their aging population is no longer in the workforce, they have a smaller and smaller workforce, and their GDP numbers are starting to decrease. Other countries like Vietnam, where there's much more of a young population, is now seeing that uptick in GDP.
And that's where jobs are going to be outsourced to as far as human and manpower go. If they're going to have to outsource jobs, they're going to go over to places like Vietnam and India because, number one, that's a younger, thriving population. And they still have a higher number of people having children. Their birth rate is still higher than the rest of us, but they're going to have a more younger population able to still work and stuff like that. So that's where more jobs are going to get outsourced to. Because I think that's what was Apple. Apple outsourced a lot of the jobs over to India and Vietnam.
But the saving grace for the US is its high desirability for immigrants to want to come here. That
right now, for the moment, is gonna be something that most people that's gonna be something going on for a while. Right now, Trump is going hard right now on that right now. But whenever he gets out of office, that's gonna change. My opinion, I think that's gonna change. The next Democrat they get in office, boy, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't even know what to expect when that happens. And I'm not like on a Republican or Democrat stuff. It's just that how things are going right now, it's kind of hard to think or predict or just to see if somebody would have come in and just switch and turn everything the opposite of what he's been doing, turn it back. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, bring the immigrants back. You know what I mean? Open up the borders again. You know what I mean? So for right now, you have the foot on the necks of the immigrants and all that with Trump. But if that turns around with the next presidency and they flip it back, it depends on what's happened in his presidential term, which will kind of dictate what it's going to look in the future. Because by the time he gets out, it'll be 2029. And by that time, we'll have robots. Medicaid should be done by that time. So if we do have immigrants coming in that need Medicaid, they're not. So that's going to have a huge health impact on them. Social Security right around the corner will be done, and we'll be having AI robots on the streets and AI everywhere. So we'll have a lot of cameras and a lot of eyes on a lot of people, because these robots, in my humble opinion, will come with installed cameras in their eyes or body or wherever they're gonna have them on them. So it's gonna be crazy. That's why I say grind your ass off and go hard. But let's get back to this video. Let's continue. Here we go.
Keeps the US relevant and keeps our population numbers very healthy. It also brings in new young people who join the workforce, pay taxes, and start contributing to the
Oh man, where is the testosterone in these men? These dudes ain't got no testosterone pumping through their veins, man. Go lift a weight.
Pay taxes and start contributing to the GDP. Most people don't fully understand the risks of a major population collapse on things like infrastructure, goods and services, business. And I didn't either until recently. The problem is that our system and infrastructure are designed to be built for a growing population. They're not built for decline. For example, every city or town that has a fire station and a police department is funded from all of those citizens. What happens if the town's population dwindles and there's not enough income from taxes to fund those systems? We might see a system where cities can no longer afford to have police or firefighters, and it might kind of fall into collapse and chaos. This kind of happened in Detroit, which is one of the thriving cities of the 50s after World War II. Detroit was Motor City. It was the manufacturing headquarters of the world. But as people started to move out, entire neighborhoods became abandoned and police stations had to shut down, and the city kind of fell into ruins. Now, there's some recovery happening now, but that could happen at a large scale. Social Security or pensions or other retirement plans are kind of a pyramid scheme. Now, that kind of has a negative connotation. It's probably the most beloved pyramid scheme of all time, but that's kind of what it is. The average Social Security payment in the US is $1,701, which means for a retired couple, that's $3,400. The average salary in the US is around $55,000.
For a retired couple. Now you take away the couple and all you got is a retired person. $1,700 if they go the Social Security route, working a job for the next 20, 30 years, which doesn't seem like something that's feasible that you're able to do. So you're forced to get a business and find a way to thrive in business on your own. So there's that. This couple stuff is going away of the wind, and it'll be an individual, and that's $1,700. And right now, people's rent is that or more, or slightly less.
Now, 12.4% of your paycheck goes to Social Security, but you only pay half that. Your employer pays the other half. That means that if the average American is making $4,600 a month at 12%, that's $574 per worker. You would need nearly 6 workers to pay for one retired couple, or 3 workers to pay for a single retiree. With a healthy pyramid of more younger people than old, that's doable, and we've managed it for all this time. But what happens when we stop having babies and there are no longer people working to pay for that? This system would fundamentally collapse. And
I mean, it's nothing new. They put it in books. They've already outlined it, and when it's supposed to happen, it's nothing new. It's just, it might be new when they say it in the news, but as far as books go, it's in the books. They tell you, you just got to find a book and read it, that it's going to end around like 2030, 2032. So the new generation of kids growing up, like, they're gonna have to live at home. They're not gonna be able to go nowhere else. It's a different mindset, a different way of living. So you're gonna have to buckle down, go hard, and hustle like you've never hustled before, and not experience this feeling of burnout, which, you know, not everybody is intended to have a business. Not everybody's intended to, or not everybody's cut out to have a business and run a business. A lot of people made for jobs, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're gonna see how this go.
In fact, the Social Security program is expected to run short of cash in 2033, while a key trust fund for Medicare will run out of funds by 20.
And another thing about Social Security, Social Security is not the amount of money that you have. Here's the understanding on Social Security. Let me get this right. Social Security is not the amount of money that comes out of your Social Security check that they take away and it goes into this magic pot That's not what your Social Security is when you get it for retirement. That's not what your Social Security check is when you get it back. That's not what it is. Social Security is when you have a larger demographic or a larger portion of people that are working than you do that are retired. The people who are younger and are working, as long as there's more people working than there are more people retired, that's where the retired people are getting their money from. They're getting their money from the more people that are working. And that's how it cycles. The Social Security money, that's how it cycles. It cycles from, if you got more people with jobs and less people that are retired, then that's how the retired people get their Social Security. It's not a magic pot that you think you've been socking away all these years. That is not true. That is incorrect. If people think that, and it's not right. It's the jobs that people have. If it's more people working and less, as long as there's more people working than there are retired, then the Social Security thing will filter out and do its thing. When that changes and flips, it gotta go. It's gone.
T31. Assuming no hardcore policy changes then, a shrinking and aging population means fewer people will pay taxes, more people will be on long-term care, there will be higher pressure on all nations' healthcare systems. There will be a reduction in the workforce, and countries like the United States, Germany, and China will have to rely on immigration to cover jobs to keep their economies afloat. Consequently, labor demand will go unmet.
I mean, AI is gonna destroy all that. AI is gonna shut that shit down.
When that happens, everything starts to fall apart. However, it's more than likely that countries will make strong policy changes that will affect you and me. Some examples of such policies include making people work longer. This means raising the retirement age or increasing the number of days to work you need to put in to access a pension. Countries like Greece, Denmark, Iceland, Israel, and Italy have all increased their retirement ages to 67. The highest in the world.
Dang.
In France, the retirement age was recently raised from 62 to 64 because of the demographic crisis. And that decision was met with rioting in the streets. They burned Paris to the ground. That's how up in arms they were with just 2 years. Imagine how bad the news will be when more and more countries start jacking up the retirement age.
I mean, when AI comes, it ain't you're gonna work till you drop. That's where it's headed. You ain't escaping this. Like, this is going to go to a point where you work until you drop. It's not gonna stop at all. It ain't gonna stop.
Countries like China will absolutely have to raise their retirement age. The problem with this is that you were working your whole life with the promise that at a certain age you would retire comfortably. But if there aren't people behind you to take up the realms in the workforce, your country might not be able to honor that promise. And that's what's so unfair about it. If you were told, work until this age, and then you'll get this money the rest of your life, and they change it on you, that can make you furious. And
that's incorrect. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. If you work, let me see. He said if you work to this age, you get this money for, okay, then yeah, that is correct. But just the way you get the money is what I'm saying. You don't get Social Security money, like I said earlier, from your Social Security being taken out and put into a magic pot. Social Security only works when there's more people working than there are retired people, because the retired people get their money from the majority of people working. It has to be more people working than there are retiring. When that switches, it's over. When AI comes in and changes that, it's over. That it is done. You ain't getting you're not getting Social Security no more. The money's going to be done, because that AI money is not going to cycle in with the retired people anymore. They're taking that out. That's how that works.
That promise. And that's what's so unfair about it. If you were told, work until this age, and then you'll get this money the rest of your life, and they change it on you, that can make you furious. And that's one of the things I'm most worried about in the near term, is some of the policy changes that are going to happen. But the big policy change that I want to see happening around the world is an incredible incentive to have children.
If you're bruh, that's oh my goodness, a policy change to have children, bruh. People will have children when they got the money for it. That's how that works. Sorry if you're on Twitch and the stream cut off and it cut back on. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. My stuff does that sometimes. But the policy change for people to have more kids, that's not going to change anything. Why would that change? If it's too expensive to raise yourself, how alone are you going to raise kids? And you just mentioned, you just mentioned that Social Security is going to be done by 2032, 2033. So therefore, you're already taking away a benefit of working till retirement at a job for X amount of years. It's not happening. You can't give an incentive to raise a family when the economy is just beating down people's necks. That ain't gonna happen. You can't give an incentive for more kids when the economy has got a chokehold on people. When the economy is so tough that it's looking at you like, I dare you to reproduce. Because as soon as you reproduce, you're going to see how expensive it is to raise that baby. As soon as you reproduce, you're going to see how expensive it is that your rent and your mortgage is going to be. So you can't give an incentive or you can't give a policy, whatever the hell he said, to have more children if the economy's literally the economy has its foot in everybody's ass. That was a dumb statement, but I'm gonna let him finish up. Here it is right here. Here we go. Let's continue.
With only having one child, everyone had an incentive to have children. In China, with only having one child, everyone wanted boys, and so it was horrible what they were doing to baby girls in the hope that you would have a son. And as a result, now there's way...
What the hell were they doing with girls? What were they doing with the... Oh, God. Now I got to look up what China was doing to the girls. So they wanted you to have a... Oh, God. Okay, we're going to keep this going. But I'm going to figure out what they were doing to the girls if you didn't have a boy the first time. Yo, that's crazy.
Horrible what they were doing to baby girls in the hope that you would have a son. And as a result, now there's way too many men. There's way too much competition. It's hard to find people to get married. It's kind of a nightmare. Playing games like this, the unintended consequences, a theme you'll hear on my channel all the time, will always catch up to companies and countries that do things that they probably shouldn't. Ultimately, the better thing is to incentivize good behavior. In the US, we have a decent child tax credit, but it's...
Okay, 1 second. So here we go. I had to pull that up because that was driving me crazy. So what the hell did China do with the girls if the child wasn't a boy that came out the womb? So here we go. I typed in, what did China do with baby girls if you didn't have a boy? So this is what I got from Google, the AI part right here. So what we got here is, crap, where'd it go? It says that China's one-child policy and traditional preference for sons led to serious consequences for baby girls. If a family had a baby girl instead of a boy and wished to have a son, they might, here we go, abandon the baby, leaving the infant open in public places or institutions with the hope that she would be taken in by others. Damn. Give her away, arranging her to be informally adopted by another family, resort to female infanticide. Tragically, some female newborns were deleted due to a deeply ingrained preference for son. Golly. Seek, okay, I'm gonna have to change this word. Seek SMEG selective abortions. With the availability of ultrasound technology, some parents aborted female fetuses to increase their chances of having a baby boy. Reason for some preference: financial security, carrying on the family, and social status and economic contribution. So now what is, okay, so then with that being said, what is the blowback? What is China's demographic when it comes to when it comes to males versus females today? All right, so let's see how that panned out. Let's see if China shot itself in the foot. And I don't know if it's going to give me a completely honest answer, but we're going to see. All right, so you got, here we go. So China's demographic put all together. Okay, 2020. So in 2024, the population was around 1.4 billion people, with approximately 719 million males inhabited and 689 females inhabited. This means that roughly 50% of the population is male, 49% is female. And it estimates early 2025 puts the population at around 1.4 billion. Okay, so therefore, the sex ratio males per 100 female in China is higher than the global average. So the gender ratio estimated at approximately 104.48 males per 100 females. Okay, so then you have too many men and not enough women. And you don't need as many men to populate a society than you do women. You want to have more women than men because, you know, one man can impregnate, you know, more women. But then you flip that on upside down. Now you got a bunch of horny men and a lot of women being picky to choose who they want to be with. And that's just going to lead to a lot of rage. So there's that.
Not very much. And honestly, compared to the cost of daycare and diapers and formula and food and nannies and babysitters and clothes and shoes, it's not even close. And that's the problem. We should make it absolutely wildly incentive for people to have children, especially for people who have higher incomes and can support those children. And the best way would be tax credits for higher earning people to get some of that money back if they have children. We got to get out in front and try to do everything we can to make it easier for children. Companies are also to blame a little bit here, because in the US, we have pretty horrible mother and father time off policies when you have children. That kind of stuff should be deeply improved. For me, I used to work at Salesforce. And as the father for my second son, Salesforce gave me, I think it was 75% of my salary for 6 months while I was on paternity leave. That was a huge blessing. I saw my kids grow up. I was able to help my wife. And that was one of the big things that made it so much easier. But on average in the US, I don't even think you get a week. And that is incredibly taxing. Imagine telling a mother who just had a child to go back to work. How do you breastfeed? How do you take care? It is kind of a problem. And countries around the world are way behind on this. The US, for example, God bless America. I'm a huge fan of a lot of things, but the way we treat having children is horrible. And ultimately, we have to figure this out, because otherwise we're going to fall below that retention number and we're going to see the population slowly decline. And that would be a true shame, right? Because everything is tied to this. You want to make
It would be nice, but he's over here wishful thinking. Like, buddy, you must have forget that it's all business, ain't nothing personal. So you over here wishful thinking like hell, but in all reality, the system is working the way the system was designed. So what you're just saying is a good video to, you know, make money and get views, but in all reality, it's doing what it's supposed to do.
New iPhone app, you want to make a new business, you want to sell products, make a YouTube video and try to reach as many people as you can. All those things require customers. That would be like the total addressable market. And if that's shrinking and there's more people with fixed incomes with less disposable, like in retirement, you're going to see businesses and the stock market crash too. Everything foundationally is tied to populations. Now, what's the exact right number of people on Earth? I don't know the answer to that. But I will tell you that what we're looking at is a monster about 30 years away that no one is talking about and no one sees coming. But it is absolutely on the horizon, and it's something we should be concerned about. We have to try to do everything we can to make it easier for people to have children, incentivize it, tons of paid time off, and honestly, better tax incentives for people who have the income to take care of extra children. And hopefully,
better tax incentive for people who have the income. Sounds like business, nothing personal.
We can reverse this. But honestly, I do believe that as society gets more and more advanced and more luxurious and there's more luxuries in life, I do think generally family sizes will shrink. So it's hard to know if this is a problem that can be overcome. But I do know one thing. I would love to know what you think.
Nah, it's not going to be overcome because the luxury that you just named, the luxury that you're saying for the luxury is for the small portion of families that's going to be left on this earth. That's what the luxury is for. The luxury ain't for everybody. The luxury is for it's for the small, you know, the small amount of it's for a certain group. It's not for everybody. You know what I mean? That's not that's not it. It's not for everyone. Everybody is not in the playbook of surviving. The surviving in the luxurious life. What's the name of that movie? Elysium, I think it was. Was it Mark Wahlberg or was it not Jason Bourne? What was that guy named that played Jason Bourne? Whatever his was it Matt Damon? Either Mark Wahlberg or Matt Damon or somebody like that played a movie called Elysium, and you know you could see Elysium. But that's where the privilege or the luxurious people lived on Elysium, and they left everybody else on Earth, and Earth was just a big old shithole at that point. And they just left them there, and they lived up on Elysium, where they enjoyed opulence. I mean, just a lifestyle that you just wouldn't believe. It was just like just fantastic. and they looking down on there, and people on Earth like, boy, it sucks to be y'all. Yeah, we're gonna delete y'all at some point, but in the meantime, we still need to use y'all for what we need y'all for. You know what I mean? So that's what I see and how things are gonna be going in the future. That's just what I see. I think that's the way that's where we're headed. That's what I believe. It may not be great, but it is what it is.
Bruh.
I know.
Bruh.
It sucks, but it's true. I mean, it's only gonna get worse. But with that being said, man, unfortunately, I am pressed for time. We won't be able to make it to the AI portion of the show today, but I will be able to get to it probably tomorrow. I'm going to try tomorrow. We're going to see. Yeah, we'll see how this is going to pan out tomorrow. I'm going to try to make it happen the best I can because we got to get to the robots that we're going to be seeing moving forward in the future that they got set up for us. But I'm not able to get to it today, but we will do our best to get to it tomorrow. However, with that being said, man, thank y'all for tuning into today's show. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. You learned something new or brought value to you in some shape, form, or fashion. And if you need to eat healthy, I can get you on a diet plan. If not, just go move to Japan and just eat regularly and you will just naturally lose weight and get slimmer. Oh man, but yes sir, with that being said, I gotta actually fix a few things on my thing down here, so make sure that our intros work out correctly, but you know, we'll do that for the next show, and I have the intros and outros for the show that'll be made. It'll be looking good for us. But till next time, man, thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate everything. Thank you everybody to hit the like button and all that good stuff, and hit follow and subscribe and all that good things. But we'll catch y'all later. We'll see y'all next time. We up out of here. Catch you later, and peace.
Baby, I'm out some meat. Pockets chunky like cottage cheese. Real nigga, I just gotta be. Smoking weed that don't gotta see. Used to be a hustler prodigy. I love when people say they proud of me. I'm eating good, smoking broccoli. Taking over blocks like Monopoly. Only fuck the ones that's my policy. Most of these hoes trying to cause a scene. Like niggas mad they not on the team. See, I got bread, then bought a dream. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, no, the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay. Don't wait no nigga off the top. In the booth, playing basketball, counting cash and smoking green. Can be blowing cloud like a smoke machine. The bitch on my dick, she got notes to sing. Bumblebee ass, y'all know it's thing. I plug your bitch like a 6-string. Jordan with the bitches got 6 rings. Smoke till my bitch a split screen. The press with pain pills and sipping lane. Riding dirty, but I'm extra clean. Lyrics nice, but I'm extra mean. All-star heavyweight like Overeem. The bitch learns since she open me. I flip money like Clover G. Gang hustle like TIP. It's hard baby like DIG. Acronym like KRT. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. Don't wait no nigga off the test. In the booth, playing beats. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing. The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. Don't wait no nigga off the test. In the booth, playing beats. In the beats like RP. No hard shit where your artery. Cutting up, who's sharp with me? Rolling up accordingly. Pulling hoes, no sorcery. Rapping like y'all forcing me. If I ain't right, then it's forgery. Nigga selling to the rock like a Flores beat. Lyrical monster on the Lord of Beats. Text nigga, my bitch Georgia Peach. Pimp tight nigga, I do more than cheat. Cold like D-Wade, I ignore the heat. Bitch, I'm on way, hit the short for reach. Money jumping like the nigga on the sneeze. Come to Pat James, give me on the beat. Bitch, I'm always winning like what's the fee? The game on lock, and I got the keys like Jay-Z. My fame won't stop, but the only thing I'm chasing.